to another Mayor's Monday. I'm here with Plover Village Administrator Dan Mahoney. Dan, how are you doing this afternoon?
We're doing great, Liz.
Yeah, before this we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Fortunately, what has been happening, I think, at a lot of places lately, since internet's being used a lot more than it was before.
Exactly, but we're back and we're good to go.
Yeah. All right, so you were telling me before that the Village of Plover has been having a really great year on the economic development side, despite everything that's going on. So what lately has been developing in Plover?
Exactly, so we have had about $28 million worth of construction permits taken out this year so far. One of the major projects that is construction of the curling club. So the Stevens Point Curling Club is building their new facility. That's nearing completion, as a matter of fact. So within the next month, we ought to be wrapped up with that. Very excited about that. In addition to that, residential growth has really been strong over the past few years, and we continue to see more of that. We've had a couple of apartment complexes that are currently under construction. One of them is in Village Park at Plover. It's kind of interesting. It's our first four-story building in the Village of Plover. The views from the top floor of that are outstanding, so I'm sure people will be excited about that. Lockwood companies are already releasing some of the apartments on the top floor, and then as they finish the other floors, they'll continue moving forward with that. We have a second construction unit of apartments going up on Pleasant Drive, so a little bit south and east of Village Park at Plover, and that's going as awfully well also. And then finally, so far this year, we've had 22 single-family residences under construction as well. We have a new area that's in the old 3 acres golf course area, and approximately 120 acres are currently under construction in some form and fashion with respect to single-family lots. So that's our growth area for single-family residential right now, and that's been going well. As a matter of fact, because of that new area of residential, also under construction is a brand new park out there. It's a neighborhood park, and so basically, it's not a large-scale park. It's about a 2-acre park, but it has some wonderful playground equipment for the young folks. It has a restroom shelter facility associated with it, and then a paved court area so people can play tennis, play pickleball, or they can play basketball all on one court. So they'll have to use it as they see fit, but kind of the new concept going around in the Village of Plover, and people are excited about being able to use that new park.
Yeah, parks are definitely a good time, especially with weather cooling down a little bit. I bet it's a little bit easier for parents to take their kids out with it not being so hot.
Absolutely.
So obviously with having that much development, especially on the residential side, you have to be growing business-wise too. So what are the things that are drawing people to Plover besides obviously the growth?
Well, there's several things. I think from a standpoint of, our business side of things, we've got some great things going on there. One thing to talk about is many communities have seen some of these big box retailers go out of business, and then we have empty buildings, and now what do we do with those? So the Econo Foods building was empty for many years on the north side of the Village of Plover on Business Highway 51, and now that's being repurposed into some storage space for one of the businesses that's actually located in Stevens Point, but now they're looking at adding some additional functions to that facility as well. So it's being put back in use. Another project is the Shopville building. That is now being repurposed. As a matter of fact, currently Oso Brewing is in the process of basically taking one piece of that particular property, and basically they will be constructing their new facilities. They are in dire need to expand their facility because their business is going so well, and so Mark Butera and his wife are currently in the process of redesigning and reconstructing, and they're actually hoping to be open late winter of 2021 with respect to that project. Then also moving into that space will be a restaurant. Not quite sure if we're able to say the name yet, so I won't quite say it here
Okay.
yet. Don't want to get in any trouble. And then basically they're creating some artisan spaces with respect to that property as well. And so that's going to be a really neat repurposing of that particular property, and we're excited about that. Well, not only that, kind of the front end of the building, what they want to do with respect to that is create some green space. So rather than having so much asphalt out there, we're going to actually see a nice green space area out in front as well. So very excited about that renovation. That'll probably be over the course of a couple of years. The restaurant will actually start construction in 2022, so we'll wait a little bit. But in the meantime, the other projects will go through. And then the Yonkers building is next to that, also vacant, and we're just walking through with some folks that there's a potential redevelopment there as well. So nice things happening there. And then just a couple of other things to talk about. Up on Business 51, where we're in the process of finalizing the reconstruction of Business 51. There is a vacant lot that's very close to Springville Pond, and we have a proposal there for development. So that should be coming to our Plan Commission for review and approval in about a month. And we're excited about now starting to see redevelopment along that corridor. People were waiting because they didn't want to build when the project, highway project was happening, because they didn't want it to affect their business. But now that we're nearing completion, we're starting to see redevelopments. So that's fun and nice to see. And then back down in the Village Park and Plover area, there was one final spot that was next to Menards, between Menards and Arby's on County Highway B. And that now has a proposal for 2 retail type users that will be on there. And that should be coming forward to our Plan Commission for review and approval in about a month as well. So again, a lot of things happening from that standpoint. And I think that, as our population is growing, as Portage County's population is growing, and obviously the city of Stevens Point is doing well from an economic development standpoint. So there's that win-win, is when the city does well, so does the village, and vice versa. So basically, both communities are doing well right now, and obviously that's showing up on our bottom line from a growth and development standpoint.
Yeah, it definitely helps to be able to both lift each other up and make the area even better. So
exactly.
Yeah, and talking about areas getting even better in Plover, I noticed that your post office was recently ranked 8th in the nation for customer service. So what's different about the Plover USPS compared to the ones up here in Wausau?
Yeah, they're a great group of folks over there, and we have a great relationship with them. A couple of years back, they changed their policies and procedures of how they deliver mail. They actually came into the village of Plover and talked about it, and there's some challenges with respect to doing that on the village's side, on the customer's side, and on their side from delivery expectations. But actually, we developed a very good plan that worked out both for the post office and the village of Plover. So really, we see them as very proactive when there's issues at hand. Another great example of that, obviously, we've got the election coming up in November. And people are very, very concerned about their votes, and they're very concerned about basically, their votes being delivered to their post office. Well, we have because we're a smaller community, I think we have the opportunity to do some things that are a little bit unique with the post office. So what they do for the village of Plover is that whether it's the village of Plover sending out ballots to people in the mail or people returning them in the mail, the post office actually takes those and directly delivers them to the residents of the village of Plover, so they don't go out to the distribution center and then come back at all. And same thing when the folks are returning their votes, they collect them immediately at the post office, and then they're given directly to the village of Plover. So we feel very, very comfortable from that standpoint that people's votes are very secure, they will work very well. And it's something we've done with the last couple of elections, so it's worked very well from our standpoint. And of course, with this election being so important because of it being, a national election, etc., we're very excited that they were willing to do that with us again. And it's working well already. Obviously, we're already receiving ballots back out. We've almost mailed out 3,000 ballots. And we have about 8,000 total people that could vote in the village of Plover. So ultimately, a lot of people are looking to do the ballot system and vote early from that standpoint, and it's been very, very successful.
Yeah, you actually went right into what was going to be my next question, which was about how absentee voting has been going, since I know ballots were mailed out about last week or so, but got that covered, so.
Exactly. I think people were concerned about 2 things. They wanted to make sure that their vote count it, but they also wanted to make sure that, voting was convenient. So there's been a lot of discussion, I'm sure you've heard, with respect to ballot boxes and drop-off boxes. And in the village of Plover, we decided that that probably would not work for us and would be as convenient, especially because if you think about it, what would be more convenient than walking to the end of your driveway and putting your ballot in your mailbox, picked up and then delivered directly to the village of Plover? Obviously, you don't have to come to the village of Plover to drop it off. It's more secure, actually, because of the federal requirements. If you tamper with mail, you're in a heck of a lot more trouble than if you were tampering with a ballot box at the village of Plover. And of course, from a standpoint of reliability, knowing that those votes are immediately picked up by the post office and directly given over to the village of Plover, and the fact that people can actually follow that process as well online, we found that's worked very well, and I think that our residents can feel very, very comfortable that their vote will count and it will be accurate and it will be secure.
Yeah, and I know another issue that's kind of compounding with the election is that the COVID pandemic is still going on. So what has been the village's response now that we're 6-7 months into this?
Right, and obviously in this particular area, especially Portage County, we've certainly seen an uptick in COVID cases over the last month. So really, basically the way the village of Plover is looking at it is, it's unfortunate because it is a situation where we have to protect the health of our people. How do we do that? We know, many of us know and are frustrated with wearing those darn masks, but that is ultimately the best way we can protect ourselves, our neighbors, our elderly, is to wear those masks. And if you look closely at the data, follow the science, they are working. Is it the perfect solution? No. But it allows us to have some semblance of normalcy. So clearly that is something we are still focusing on, especially with the governor's announcement that he's creating a new order and basically continuing the thought process of wearing masks. So the village of Plover certainly will follow that and do that, whether it's with our employees or people coming into our building. But even beyond that, basically because we've received some funding from the federal government, we are actually in the process of making some improvements to our building. We're working on our heating and ventilation equipment and install things that basically will give us pure air and basically remove contaminants. We'll have some portable equipment, UV lighting equipment that will kill bacteria and, ultimately, things that cause COVID, among other things from that standpoint. And we'll have those options available to us as well. So we're in the process of doing those things, but again, the thought process of not only protecting our employees, but the people that come into the village to make sure that they're in a safe environment if they have to come in. Yeah, it will continue to be a challenge, this COVID-19 situation, for a while yet. So we need to do as best we can to protect ourselves and, as I said, our neighbors, our friends, and our family.
And I know just the other day that Stevens Point says that they're not recommending that kids go trick-or-treating this year. Has the village of Plover talked at all about that or what they want to do?
As a matter of fact, we just started having more of that conversation. Typically what Stevens Point, Plover, and Portage County do is talk together about Halloween every year. We kind of coordinate when that happens. So with the city's announcement, basically that they were going to do that, just started a conversation with our police chief, Dan Hoff, this morning. And ultimately we agreed that the wise thing to do would be follow the rule of what Stevens Point is doing. So we're in the process now of preparing a press release that will go out. But basically we will be doing the same thing that Stevens Point is doing, is recommending alternatives, to the trick-or-treating this year. We're not outright prohibiting it, but the recommendation is, find alternative ways and actually make some suggestions of how you can still have fun, with your children and with your family, but more in a safe manner so that we aren't spreading COVID-19, especially to our young.
Yeah. So I actually think that covered everything that I had on my list. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about or think people should know happening in Plover right now?
Sure, I think that something that the folks might be interested in about Plover is that another major project we have going on is basically we're doing a lot of work with respect to environmental issues in the village. especially as it relates to groundwater quantity and quality. Uh, the Little Plover River runs through the village of Plover, and back in 2004, some segments of the stream dried up. And so that was kind of a call to action by environmentalists saying, wait, if we really think about this, the village of Plover has some high capacity wells, and the egg industry has high capacity wells, and it's having an impact on that river. So we need to find ways to basically restore flows to the river. And so the village began working on that, but in the past couple of years, the village formed the advisory committee, more or less a project management team that looks at Little Plover Rivers. Initially, it was Little Plover Rivers, but now what we're doing is we're actually looking at the entire watershed. So basically, the thought process is not only what can we do to improve flows on the Little Plover River, but what can we do within the watershed itself to basically, again, look at issues like water quantity, water quality, the stream itself, and whether it's improving flows or actually improving, the environmental quality of the stream itself. And so with that in mind, we have several projects that are going on. We applied for about $2.6 million worth of funding for about 5 different projects. And so in some cases, basically we use funding to take property out of irrigated egg production and convert it to wetlands or upland prairie or a combination of both. We have some lands that are owned by the village of Plover and the DNR, and we're actually doing some forestry management items on those lands. There's some neat forestry areas, and so they're trying to protect and enhance those barren areas. There's some pine barrens and oak barrens, for example. But then along with that, they're doing some things on the stream. Look at way back in the 1800s, the Little Plover River only used to be about 5 feet wide, and now there are certain areas where it's 30 to 40 feet wide. Well, what's happened is it widened out, obviously less than the amount of water that is kind of flowing in that particular area. Well, that's not very valuable for wildlife, and it's not the natural course of the stream. So what basically they've been doing is narrowing the stream channel, actually cutting out invasive species that are there, using that bundle up and make these brush bales, so to speak, and then placing in the stream where the stream got wider. Well, that is deep in the stream. We turned some of the bottom, which basically was great habitat for brook trout. And so there's been some amazing changes in the actual stream itself. And then further to the east in the headwaters area, we also converted some areas from irrigated egg to wetlands. And so now we actually are directing water into the original channel that was there, increasing the flows of that channel, which is absolutely great for the flows, but again, protecting the land around it as well. So it's not only protecting the stream and doing better for the stream, but it's actually better for the watershed as a whole. And so those types of projects are getting out to the public, and now some of the property owners out there are approaching our project management team and saying, hey, we see some of the things you're doing. We care about the river, we care about our property. Can you check our property out, and are there things that we can do and you can do in conjunction with us to help make improvements to our property? So now we're doing that as well. So some really cool things happening with respect to the environment and being green and being careful and understanding that our residents in Portage County need that water. We all basically use it for our drinking water source. So A, we can't use it up, and B, we certainly shouldn't be contaminating it either. And so now, ultimately, we're just getting started with respect to making improvements. And we not only hope that we will see improvements in our own watershed, but some of the things that we're doing will be available to others to say, oh, this is what we're doing, we like this idea, we think we can do it in our watershed. So hopefully we can even see more improvements in other watersheds throughout the state, who knows, maybe even the nation.
Yeah, because I know that's something that the state has focused on a lot. I mean, I know in the legislature they talked a lot about the Clean Water Act, and that's been a focus for them. So Plover's setting a great example for the rest of the state, sounds like.
There you go, that's the goal.